a rare condition this day and age to read any good news on the newspaper page. The love and tradition of the grand design, some people say it's even harder to find. Well, then there must be some magic clue inside these gentle walls. 'Cause all I see is a tower of dreams, real love bursting out every scene. We're gonna fill our house with happiness, but we'll smother the blues with tenderness. There's room for you, room for me, for gentle hearts and opportunity. It's the bigger love of the family.
2 plus 2 equals 6. 6 plus 3, 10. Obtuse plus acute equals right. Cosine plus adjacent equals adjective. 2 plus 3 equals 10. 10 plus 3 is 25.
Yo, what is that guy doing?
Bro, I don't know.
Hey kid, what are you doing?
Studying for physics.
What?
Like that?
Physics?
Physics? You want to know how to study physics? You got a problem with it?
Yeah, get in the car, boy.
Oh shit. Get the car.
Get the car. Plus 1/2 acceleration t squared, you know?
Yeah. Kind of like how vector is direction and magnitude.
Oh yeah. Gotta use the quadratic equation when you get those, multiple t's. You got t and t squared. You can plug that all in and you can find it.
Oh yeah. And you gotta remember the quadratic formula. I mean, you know the song, right?
Yeah,
Quadratic formula is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a.
Yeah, like y equals mx plus b. Where are you taking me?
To the house of physics, boy. You gonna learn something today.
Oh god. This is just my backyard.
It's the house of physics now, alright? Shut up.
Okay.
Take this ball.
Ethan, a projectile is an object where the only force acting on it is gravity.
Oh.
So when this ball is kicked, the only force acting on it is gravity.
Makes sense to me.
Time to go to school.
Oh yeah, I love pulling out of my driveway and going to school.
Yeah, we're definitely going to school.
School is in fact where we are going.
Yeah, school's fun, right?
Haha.
My life be like, yeah. My life be like, yeah. My life be like, yeah.
It's physics time.
So, in our problem, our first situation is a ball is kicked at a 30-degree angle at the speed of sound, which is 343 meters per second. So, in our situation, we can use 3 different problems. Find x and y component forces, how long the ball was in the air, and how high and far the ball went. So, starting with our first problem, we need to start by drawing a triangle. The vertical, which is y, the horizontal, which is x, and our hypotenuse, which would be our 343, because that is our total speed with an angle of 30. Now we can use sine and cosine to find our x and y component forces. Y with sine, x with cosine. So, using that math, we can find our x and y component force. Y being 171.5 meters per second, and our x component being 297.0 meters per second. So, for the next part, we can use how long was it in the air. So, we first need our delta x equation, which is delta x equals velocity initial times time plus 1/2 acceleration times time. Our delta x is 0 because we're trying to find how long it was in the air, therefore it returns to ground and there was no movement on the y-axis. Velocity initial, we just use our y component force here. Our acceleration would be -10 because gravity is the only force acting on it. So, using all of those, we plug it into our equation and we would get two answers. T equals 0 or T equals 34.3. So T cannot equal 0 because that was when the ball was first kicked, when it was resting initially. That's why we don't use it. Our third question is how high and far the ball goes. Now, how high, our y height, we are going to use our delta x equation still, except for one thing changed, which will be our time. We use half the time because we're looking for the top of the arc, which would be halfway through the air. So we plug all that in and we get our y total height right here. Now, for our x, how far it goes, we only need to use delta x equals velocity initial times time because there is no acceleration. So we plug that all in using total time and we can get our x component meters per second and we get our distance.
Do you get it now, Ethan?
I think I do get it now.
Ball is kicked. This is where the foot imparts the force on the ball. Immediately after, as the ball leaves the foot, it becomes a projectile because gravity is the only force acting on it, which is why we can use the delta x kinematic equation. Highest point. This is the highest point, which is also the halfway point of air time, which is why we use half of the total time when calculating max height.
Just a bit uncomfortable in my
Everybody join hands. 3, 2, 1.